Hello guys, on Voice of Betrayal, where every lie has a voice. I used to think that some people were just destined to find their soulmate early in life, and that I was one of the lucky ones. If you asked anyone in our town, they would have told you that she and I were meant for each other. We'd grown up side by side. Our families knew each other. We shared the same classrooms, ate at the same dusty canteen tables, borrowed each other's pens, and sometimes, even each other's dreams. Back then, I never dared to imagine that she'd one day become my wife. She was always the girl everyone liked, not just for her beauty, but for that kindness in her eyes. She was the one who stayed after school to help the teacher clean up, the one who remembered everyone's birthday, the one who prayed every morning before class began. And me? I was just the boy who quietly adored her from the sidelines. But life has a funny way of turning pages when you least expect it. In college, things shifted. We ended up in the same program, taking the same classes. I'd sit across from her in the library, pretending to study while my mind wandered to a place where we were something more than friends. She had been in 2 serious relationships before me, both ending with her heart in pieces. She used to tell me she hated cheaters. That she couldn't stand people who betrayed someone's trust. And every time she said it, a part of me thought, if only she knew how much I'd protect her from ever feeling that way again. It wasn't until after her second breakup that we really started talking, not as kids, not as classmates, but as 2 people who suddenly realized how much they'd been there for each other all along. I remember the day she said yes to dating me. We were sitting on the old stone steps outside the college building, the air thick with the smell of rain on hot pavement. My hands were shaking. My throat felt like it had closed up. And when she finally smiled and said, "I've been waiting for you to ask," I swear the world went silent for a moment. That was the start of something beautiful. For years later, we were still inseparable. But marriage wasn't going to be easy, not in India, not for us. Both our families were skeptical about love marriages. They'd tell us stories of how such marriages always failed, how passion faded, how families fell apart. We fought that battle for over a year, convincing them that what we had wasn't just infatuation. We talked to elders, argued with parents, promised them that we were different. And in the end, love won. The wedding was everything I could have dreamed of, and more. I can still see her in that moment, walking toward me in her bridal sari, the soft golden fabric catching the light like it was woven from the sun itself. Her smile was so wide it made my chest hurt. That day, I believed I was the happiest man alive. The first 2 years of marriage were nothing short of perfect. We laughed a lot. We made plans for the future. We found a little apartment of our own, away from our families, because she wanted to build something that was just ours. I gave up my dream job so I could work in our home city, just to be near her. My family didn't like that she worked, but I stood by her. I wanted her to have everything, her career, her independence, her happiness. She'd wake me up with a kiss before I left for work. We'd share late-night tea while watching old Bollywood movies. She'd hold my hand when we walked through crowded markets, as if we were the only 2 people in the world. She was affectionate, attentive, and mine. But looking back, I realize how fragile happiness can be. How quickly the smallest crack can spread until the whole thing collapses. It started subtly. One morning, we were both getting ready for work. She was cooking breakfast while her phone buzzed on the table beside me. Normally, I wouldn't have cared, we never had secrets. But the message lit up the screen before my eyes could even look away. "Please reply. I won't ask again. Why are you ignoring me?" The name on the screen was a male coworker, someone she'd mentioned before when talking about her office. It was probably nothing, or at least, that's what I told myself. She'd been under a lot of stress at work lately. Maybe it was something about deadlines. Maybe I was overthinking. But when she came over, picked up her phone, and glanced at me with a look I'd never seen before, something tight, almost defensive, I felt the first quiet echo of suspicion. I pushed it away. After all, I'd known her my whole life. She loved me. She prayed for my long life every morning. She wasn't the kind of woman who'd ever. At least, that's what I believed. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things. She was still saying, "I love you," every morning, still cooking my favorite meals, still kissing me on the cheek for no reason. On the surface, nothing had changed. But when you've known someone your entire life, you can feel the difference in their smallest gestures. There was something missing. It wasn't the big things, it was the little pauses, the half-second delay before she answered a question, the way her eyes darted away when I looked at her too long. She was still doing everything a loving wife would do, but it was like she was performing a role rather than living it. One evening, I came home to find her sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand, tears running down her face. I rushed to her. "What happened? What's wrong?" I asked. She shook her head, wiping at her eyes. "It's just work. Too much pressure. Too many things going wrong." I believed her, or maybe I wanted to. I held her while she cried, rubbing her back until her breathing steadied. She was strong, always the one to stand up for herself, so seeing her like that, it unsettled me. But the tears didn't stop that night. Or the next. For a week, she seemed weighed down by something invisible, retreating into herself whenever I tried to get close. Every time I asked, she gave the same vague answer, "It's just work." And then, the message came. It was a Wednesday evening. I was stuck in traffic, inching my way home through a sea of honking cars and motorbikes. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and when I pulled it out, I saw it was from an unknown number. No name, no photo. Just a message, and 2 pictures. I still remember the cold rush that hit me as I opened them. The first image showed my wife in bed, sleeping, naked under a white sheet, her back to the camera. She wasn't alone, an arm, a man's arm, was draped over her waist. His face wasn't visible. The second picture was similar, but in a different room, a different bed. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind refused to believe it. This wasn't her. She would never. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was fake. Maybe, God help me, maybe she'd been forced. Because cheating. That wasn't even an option in my head. Not for her. By the time I got home, I was shaking. I burst through the door and said, "We need to talk." She froze. Then, without me showing her a single thing, her eyes filled with tears and she whispered, "I'm sorry. It wasn't supposed to go that far. I love you. I made a mistake. Please, forgive me." The world tilted under me. My ears rang. My vision blurred. I had been prepared for denial, for outrage, for her telling me it wasn't true, but not for her to confess. I didn't even hear half of what she said after that. My mind had gone blank. I walked past her and out the door. She tried to stop me, but I kept walking. I wandered the streets until 4 in the morning, replaying her words, replaying the pictures, replaying every moment of our life together and trying to understand how it could all have been a lie. When I finally came home, she was still on the couch, her eyes red and swollen. She reached for me, saying, "I love you" over and over, as if the words could erase what she'd done. I pushed her away and sat down across from her. "How could you?" I asked quietly. "We were happy. Everything was perfect. Why would you do this?" She just sobbed. "I'm sorry. I love you." "No," I said, my voice breaking. "You crushed everything we built together. I gave up my dream job to be near you. I went against my family so you could work. I bought us this house with every penny I had because you wanted to live apart from them. I gave you everything." Still, nothing but sobbing. Finally, I demanded an explanation. "How did it start? Why him? When did it happen?" She claimed it was just a one-time mistake. That it just happened. That it wasn't about me, that she was selfish, that she would do anything to make it right. She even offered to quit her job. But the photos told a different story. 2 different locations. 2 different days. When I showed them to her, her face went pale. That's when she changed her story, saying he had forced her the second time. And in that moment, my trust dropped from 100% to 0. I asked if she loved him, if she wanted to leave me. Her answer was the same every time, no. For 2 hours, I pressed her. And finally, she told me everything from the start. She sat there, her hands trembling in her lap, eyes fixed on the floor. When she finally spoke, her voice was so small I almost didn't hear it. It started because I was talking to a friend about us. I blinked. What about us? Our bed problems, she whispered, shame coloring her cheeks. I told her how much I love you, but sometimes I worry I'm losing attraction. Her words were a punch to the chest. Bed problems. We'd never had a conversation about that. If she felt that way, why hadn't she told me? We could have worked on it together. She went on, she told me she feels the same sometimes about her husband. And she cheats. She said it keeps her attracted to him. That it's just a way to reset things. She told me to try it. I stared at her. So you listen to that? Tears welled in her eyes. At first, no. I didn't want to. But then, there was this guy at work. He had been flirting with me for weeks. I ignored him, but after that conversation with my friend, I started flirting back. She paused, as if waiting for me to stop her, to shout, but I couldn't move. One day, we both took a day off. We booked a hotel. She looked up at me for the first time, her face crumpling. It was my choice. I can't blame anyone else. The whole time, I kept thinking about you. And when it was over, I hated myself. I felt so guilty I could barely breathe. Her voice cracked as she continued. I told him it was a mistake, that I didn't want to see him again. But a few weeks later, he came to me again, asking for one more time. I refused. Again and again. But then, he told me he had taken pictures. That he'd use them if I didn't meet him. My stomach twisted. He got me to go to another place. I didn't want to. I just wanted it to be over. I told him it would be the last time. After that, I told him never to contact me again. He left the company soon after. I wanted to believe her. God help me, I really did. But the images in my mind, her with him, his arm around her, the way she chose him first, they burned through every shred of trust one had left. She went on, I thought it was over. But then he started messaging me again. Not asking for sex, just saying things. That he loved me. That I loved him too. That we were perfect together. He even asked me to run away with him to another city. I refused. Every time. But he wouldn't stop. I asked why she didn't delete the messages. I wanted to show you. I was trying to find the courage to confess before he could ruin everything. But he sent you the pictures first. Her story fit with what I had seen the past week, her tears, her fear. And part of me believed she was telling the truth this time. But another part, the part that had been shattered, didn't know if anything she said was real. I thought of everything I had done for her. The sacrifices. The fights with my family. The years we'd spent building this life. I thought of the boy I was, the one who'd watched her from across a classroom and dreamed of a future with her. And then I thought of the man I was now, the one sitting in his own living room, hearing his wife describe how she'd given herself to someone else, not once, but twice. She reached for my hand. Please. I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. I'll cut off every friend. I'll spend the rest of my life proving I love you. Just, don't leave me. I pulled my hand away. You already left me, I said quietly. And in that moment, something inside me cracked for good. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even tell her to get out. I just stood up, grabbed my jacket, and said, "Come on. I'm taking you to your parents' house." She looked confused. Why? Where are we? Get your things, I said, my voice flat. The drive was silent. She kept glancing at me, her hands twisting in her lap, her lips trembling like she wanted to speak but didn't dare. Outside, the city lights blurred past, but inside the car, the air felt like stone. When we pulled up in front of her parents' house, she finally spoke. Please, please don't do this. I'll change. I'll prove it. You're my everything. I didn't look at her. Go inside. She hesitated, as if one more second in the car might change my mind. But when I didn't move, she stepped out. I watched her walk to the door, knock, and disappear inside. And then I drove away, no destination, just away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark with the TV on mute, staring at nothing while my mind replayed everything like a cruel slideshow. The way she laughed when she made tea for me. The way she used to hug me from behind while I cooked. The way her eyes looked when she swore she'd never hurt me. And now, those same eyes telling me how she had slept with another man. I thought about the sacrifices. The job I gave up so I could be near her. The way I defended her right to work, even when my family said no. The house I bought for us with every penny I had, because she wanted a place of our own. I thought about how she was supposed to be my safe place, and how she'd become the source of my deepest pain. I hated her. And I still loved her. I didn't know that was possible until now. The calls started the next day. Her name flashing on my phone, over and over. I ignored the first few. Then I answered. Her voice was raw from crying. Please, just, talk to me. I can't live without you. I made the worst mistake of my life, and I'll spend forever making it right. Just give me one chance. Every word twisted the knife deeper. Because the truth was, I wanted to give her that chance. 20 years of friendship and love don't just vanish. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him. I saw those pictures. I saw what she'd chosen over me. Our families noticed something was wrong almost immediately. They'd never seen us fight before. They asked questions I refused to answer, because in our culture, once a woman is labeled a cheater, she's done. No second chances. No forgiveness. Her life would be destroyed. And even after everything, I couldn't do that to her. So I carried the weight alone. One morning, I agreed to meet her. We sat in a quiet park, far from where anyone knew us. She looked tired, smaller somehow. I'll do anything, she said again. Quit my job, move cities, cut off everyone. I just want you. And what about him? I asked. The guy who has the pictures. The guy who can ruin your life with one click. She looked down. He's gone. He's in another city now. He hasn't messaged me since he left. I don't want to think about him. I just want to focus on us. I stared at her, searching for something, certainty, truth, maybe the version of her I once knew. But all I found was the gnawing question. Could I ever trust her again? I told her I needed time. But the truth was, I didn't know if time could fix this. Some wounds don't close, they just teach you how to live with the scar. That night, I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling, knowing tomorrow I'd wake up with the same two questions looping in my head. Do I save 20 years of love, or do I save myself? And if I walk away, what do I do about the man who still holds her pictures in his hands? Days turned into weeks, but the storm in my head never settled. I'd go to work, talk to people, smile when I had to, but the moment I was alone, it all came rushing back. Her voice. His arm over her. Those damn pictures. I told myself that if I could just stop thinking about him, maybe I could start thinking about us again. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was, he still existed. Somewhere out there, he had pieces of my life in his hands, pieces he could use to destroy everything, her, me, our families. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach tightened. What if it was him? What if he decided he hadn't had enough? What if the pictures weren't the only ones? One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I texted her, "Has he messaged you again?" She replied almost instantly. "No. I told you, it's over. He's gone to another state. Please don't think about him." But I couldn't stop. Because here's the thing, men like that don't just move on. They don't let go. It was 2 weeks after she moved back to her parents' place when I started digging. I asked quiet questions through friends. I searched social media, old photos, anything that could lead me to where he was now. I found out he'd taken a new job 500 kilometers away. Far, but not far enough. I didn't tell her what I was doing. She wanted to pretend he was out of our lives, but I knew better. I'd seen the way he talked to her in those messages. It wasn't just about sex anymore. In his mind, they had something real. He thought she loved him back. That's what made him dangerous. The more I thought about him, the more I felt my anger boiling into something darker. This wasn't just some stranger who happened to be there when my wife's boundaries collapsed. This was a man who knew she was married, who knew me, and still chased her. A man who took pictures without her knowing. A man who used them to get what he wanted. A man who thought he could just walk away and live his life while mine burned. One evening, my phone buzzed again. It wasn't him, but the name on the screen made my heart stop. It was hers. I had a nightmare, her voice whispered through the speaker when I answered. He was here. In the dream, he was standing outside my parents' house, calling my name. I didn't say anything. I can't stop thinking about those pictures, she said, her voice breaking. What if he sends them to someone? What if my family finds out? What if everyone does? For a second, I almost felt pity for her. Then the anger crept back in. Maybe you should have thought about that before I stopped myself. I didn't want to go down that road again. She cried softly. Please, just promise me you won't let him ruin us. Her words hung in the air long after I hung up. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for him to decide when my life would explode. If there was a risk he could hurt us, I'd face him myself. Because forgiving her was one thing. But letting him think he'd won, that was never going to happen. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning, not my friends, not my family, not even her. If I said it out loud, someone would try to stop me. And this was something I couldn't be talked out of. I spent 2 nights gathering what little I knew about him. Full name. New workplace. The city he'd moved to. A few pictures from social media. The more I looked at his face on my phone, the more I felt the pressure in my chest building. This was the man who had taken something from me I could never get back. This was the man who had turned my wife into a stranger. And now, I was going to see him. The bus ride to his city was long, but I didn't feel the hours pass. My mind was locked on a single thought: what am I going to do when I find him? Every possible version played in my head. Maybe I'd demand he delete everything right in front of me. Maybe I'd threaten him. Maybe, and I hated how natural this thought felt, I'd make sure he could never hurt anyone like this again. By the time I arrived, it was late afternoon. I knew where he worked, but I didn't want to confront him there. Too many people. Too many witnesses. Instead, I waited. I sat in a small cafe across the street from his building, nursing a bitter cup of tea I barely tasted. I watched the glass doors, every muscle in my body tight, until I finally saw him walk out. Same face. Same smirk in his posture. Same casual way he moved, as if the world belonged to him. I followed him from a distance. Down one street, then another. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it. Finally, he turned into a quieter lane, narrow, empty except for a stray dog sniffing at a trash bin. That's when I called out his name. He stopped, looked over his shoulder, and for a moment there was confusion in his eyes. Then recognition. Then that smirk again. Well, he said, his voice dripping with fake surprise. Didn't expect to see you here. You're going to delete everything, I said. My voice was low, but it felt like it carried through the whole street. He tilted his head, pretending to think. Everything? Oh, you mean the pictures? The ones your wife. Don't, I cut in, stepping closer. He chuckled. Relax. I haven't sent them to anyone. Yet. He let that word hang in the air like a blade. I could feel the blood rushing in my ears. If you do. You'll what? He said, smirking wider. Hit me. Kill me. Go ahead. Then you'll have more problems than I will. For a second, I actually saw it, my fist connecting with his jaw, watching him crumple. But I knew he was right. One wrong move, and I'd lose everything. So I stepped even closer, close enough for him to see exactly how far past my limit I was. If you ever contact her again, if you even think about sending those pictures to anyone, I will make sure your life ends up smaller than this street. Do you understand me? He didn't answer. Just looked at me with that same smile, but I could see it now, the faint flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. I left him standing there. My hands were shaking as I walked away, but I didn't look back. On the bus ride home, I realized something. I had gone there to protect her. But deep down, it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about taking back the smallest piece of control in a life that had spun completely out of mine. When I got back home, she was waiting for me. I hadn't told her I was leaving the city, but she could see it in my face the second I walked in. Something had happened. "What did you do?" she whispered. I hung my jacket and didn't answer right away. I didn't want to give her the details. The less she knew, the better. "I talked to him," I finally said. Her eyes widened. "You saw him?" "Yes." I poured myself a glass of water. "He won't bother us again." She stepped closer, searching my face. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "you don't have to be afraid anymore. But I need to know, are you done with him?" "Completely." Her head dropped. "I told you, it was a mistake." "I'm not asking about the past," I interrupted. "I'm asking about right now. If he came back tomorrow, would you still tell him no? Even if I wasn't here to see it?" She didn't answer right away. That hesitation, that tiny pause, was all I needed to feel my stomach tighten. Finally, she said, "Yes. I'm done. I want you. I only want you." We sat at the kitchen table for hours that night. She cried. I didn't. I felt like I'd run out of tears weeks ago. She told me she'd quit her job. That she'd block every man she knew on social media if it made me feel safer. She promised to rebuild my trust, even if it took years. But trust isn't something you rebuild brick by brick. It's something that either stands or collapses entirely. And ours was lying in pieces on the floor. Over the next few weeks, she tried. She cooked my favorite meals. She sent me good morning texts before I was even awake. She touched my arm when we walked, the way she used to when we first started dating. Sometimes, I almost believed we could go back to what we had before. But then I'd see her looking at her phone just a little too long. Or she'd step outside to take a call, and I'd feel my chest tighten again. I didn't even need proof, the doubt was enough to eat me alive. One evening, I was sitting alone in the living room when she came in and knelt in front of me. "I can't keep living like this," she said. "I'm trying, but you still look at me like I'm a stranger. I need to know, are we going to make it? Or am I fighting for something you've already decided to let go?" I stared at her, my mind screaming two answers at once. "Yes, fight for us. We have 20 years. We can fix this." "No, walk away. Save yourself before it happens again." For the first time in my life, I realized that love and trust aren't the same thing. And without trust, love feels like holding onto smoke. "I don't know," I said finally. "And until I do, we can't move forward." Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded slowly, then stood and walked away. That night, lying in bed alone again, I understood the truth. I was standing at a crossroads, and whichever road I took, I'd lose something I could never get back. Weeks passed, but the answer never came. Every morning, I woke up thinking, today I'll know. Every night, I went to bed thinking, maybe tomorrow. It was a strange kind of limbo, not quite married, not quite separated. We lived in the same house, spoke about bills and groceries, but avoided the only conversation that mattered. I caught her watching me sometimes, searching for a clue in my expression. I avoided her eyes. I didn't want her to see the war still going on inside me. One Saturday morning, I drove out to the lake where we'd taken our first trip as a couple. It was early spring then, bright, warm, full of promise. Now it was gray, with the wind cutting across the water. I sat on the same rock where we'd once eaten sandwiches, where she'd told me she wanted to grow old with me. Back then, I believed every word. I tried to picture us 20 years from now. Would I be holding her hand, grateful we fought through the pain? Or would I still be wondering if she was telling me the truth? The answer came quietly, without drama. I realized I could forgive her, but I could never forget. And a marriage built on suspicion isn't a marriage at all. When I got home, she was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. She smiled faintly when she saw me. "You went out early." "I went to the lake," I said. Her hands stilled on the cutting board. She knew exactly what that meant. I took a deep breath. I can't do this anymore. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The knife clinked against the counter as she set it down. I don't hate you, I said. But I can't live in this halfway place, waiting for the next time I get a message from some stranger, or find something on your phone I wasn't supposed to see. That's not a life. She stepped closer, tears already running down her cheeks. Please, don't throw us away. We can fix it. I shook my head. I've been trying to convince myself of that. But every time I think we're okay, the images come back. The doubt comes back. I can't stop it. And I don't want to keep punishing you for something you can't undo. For a moment, the only sound in the room was her crying. Then I turned, walked to our bedroom, and started packing. That night, I slept in a motel on the edge of town. It wasn't home, nothing ever would be again, but it was quiet. I could breathe. Somewhere out there, she was probably staring at the empty side of the bed. Somewhere out there, he was probably living his life without a second thought. And somewhere inside me, the man I used to be was gone. Months passed. The house felt empty without her laughter, without the familiar routines we had shared. At first, every corner reminded me of her, every sound of a phone ping made my heart skip. But slowly, the weight began to lift. I started taking walks in the morning, long walks through the streets of our city. I found small joys again, the smell of fresh bread from a bakery, the sound of children playing in the park, the quiet calm of dawn. I focused on myself. Work, friends, my health. I reconnected with people I had neglected during the years I had been consumed by love and pain. I even started journaling, pouring all my thoughts, fears, and anger onto paper. It was the first time I could look at my feelings without being overwhelmed. One day, I ran into her at a distant relative's wedding. She looked nervous, but there was no bitterness in her eyes. We exchanged a polite nod, a silent acknowledgement of everything that had happened. It hurt, but it wasn't the sharp, unbearable pain of the past. It was a reminder of the lessons I had learned, about trust, boundaries, and the fragility of love when honesty fails. The man who had caused so much chaos faded from our lives entirely. He had no more power over me, no more hold over her. It was like a shadow disappearing after a storm. I realized that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. I could forgive her, for my own peace, but I didn't have to rebuild what had been broken beyond repair. That was a truth both freeing and painful. Years later, I found love again. Not the reckless, consuming love of my 20s, but a steady, mutual respect, built on honesty and patience. I learned to trust cautiously, to communicate openly, and to value the small moments that make life worth living. I still remember her, always will. But the memory no longer burns like fire. It's a lesson, a scar, a testament to the strength I didn't know I had. Life moved forward. Pain faded. And I discovered that even after betrayal, heartbreak, and despair, the heart can heal, slowly, unevenly, but completely enough to love again.